Last week, I dropped a video on why I think Ted Mosby is the ultimate con artist based off of what I'd seen of How I Met Your Mother so far. Yes, I'm still halfway through season 1 and I'm sharing my thoughts of the show as I watch along. So, if you'd like to watch me in real time try and understand these characters and what makes them tick, consider hitting subscribe if you haven't yet. And please don't drop spoilers. You can imply if I'm getting warm in my predictions, but please don't explicitly tell me what happens in later seasons. Thank you. But back to what I was saying. Last week was Ted's week. This week, however, I want to talk about Marshall and Lily and their relationship because whereas episode 7 was the definitive episode for me when I thought to myself, I think I'm kind of getting my handle on Ted. For Lily and Marshall, however, it was back in episode 3. And I just want to talk about that. Now, for those who are probably about to tell me, Noria, it's too early for you to decide that you have a handle on Lily and Marshall's relationship, just 3 episodes in, are you sure you're not being in too much of a hurry to judge them quickly? I would say that, yeah, maybe I am judging their relationship too fast. Maybe I'm wrong about this. But that's why I'm making these videos, to document what my thoughts are about these characters and see if, as I continue to watch the seasons, my theories are confirmed or turn out to be flat out wrong. With Lily and Marshall, though, I don't necessarily think I'm that off based with this first impression, because with them, I think they are quite the accurate representation of first loves who met in university/high school, became each other's world, dated no one else but the other person, and after years of doing so, proceeded to get engaged and get married. Now, I know a lot of books, movies, and shows like to hype up the first love and push it as being this epic love story, but from the episode and the way in which we get to see Lily's hang-ups about her engagement and what it's meant for her, that Marshall is the only man she's ever truly dated for decades now, I actually think that How I Met Your Mother did a good job with depicting that, and this episode with its premise and the experiences of Lily, Robin, Marshall, Ted, and Barney made such a good commentary on said relationship that I really did enjoy. But before I dive into all of that, a quick summary of the episode. Ted, as always, starts things off saying that the gang was deciding what their plans for that night would be. He's on a call with Barney, whilst Lily's on a call with Robin, and Marshall, my big baby, is in the middle being ignored. Can you all tell that Marshall is my absolute favorite? Anyway, Ted wants McLaren because the bar is tried and trusted and true. Barney is team, my bestie is stuck in a rut and I need to unknot said rut. And in typical Barney fashion, comes up with the most absolutely bonkers idea. They are headed to the airport to pick someone up. Except his idea of picking someone up is picking up women who were traveling into the city, which Ted looks at him like he's lost his damn mind. And in Ted's defense, Barney's lost said mind ages ago. Anyway, they run into 2 hot young women who are flying out to Philadelphia, and these 2 dumbasses decide that to Philadelphia they will go because hot women. Except it's only when they've arrived in the city that they learn that this hot women have equally hot boyfriends, hot football player boyfriends. And to make matters worse, because Barney must always be sketchy, he was caught on camera just dropping the suitcase he had brought along in the airport and racing to board the plane. Sans checking in said suitcase. So as expected, they arrested their ass. Barney, though, refuses to cooperate and insists on sticking to the identity of being international businessmen who were in town for international businessmen meetings. The guy in airport security isn't buying it because, for real, who would ever take Barney seriously? Anyway, they look like they might be spending the night in jail, a situation that delights Marshall, who was at home studying for law school and upset that his friends didn't call him to hang out with them, especially not when they found their way to Philadelphia. Was I the only one who, every time they said Philadelphia in the show, flashed back to the 1999 Adam Sandler movie Big Daddy, where he fosters Dylan and Cole Sprouse's character Yes, they had the boys play the exact same child in the film, and their character Julian has the scene where he's learning to spell and had to spell Constitution and Philadelphia. Am I the only one that watched that as a kid? Also, shout out, Jon Stewart was in that movie too. Who would have thunk? I thought he looked very familiar the first time I watched The Daily Show with him as a host. I didn't clock it until much later. Anyway, back to How I Met Your Mother. Marshall is positively giddy at being able to drive to Philadelphia to bail out his two dumbass friends until airport security back in New York lets the ones in Philadelphia know that the suitcase was opened and was stuffed not with explosives as they logically thought, but condoms. Because Barney would always be Barney. And still being Barney, is able to snag an invite to hang out from Sasha, someone else who works at Philadelphia's airport security unit. He drags a protesting Ted to Sasha's place, which turns out to not be her place, but her grandfather's place. As you can expect, it's an absolute bore. But Barney still insists that the night can be salvaged, and it is, with Barney convincing Ted to lick the Liberty Bell. These two idiots, Your Honor. But what of Marshall, you ask? Well, he decided to make a U-turn back to NYC because, you see, whilst Ted and Barney were having a wild time on the town, Lily and Robin go for the safe and trusted McLarens, where the men at the bar consistently hit on Robin, buying her drinks and constantly walking up to flirt with her, whilst Lily is stuck having to pay for her own drinks and is very upset that she isn't being actively flirted with. Robin, to rescue her friend's pride, points out that it might be because Lily's engaged and the men can see her engagement ring, to which Lily takes off her ring in the hopes that she would get hit on. Her hopes are unfortunately dashed, as the only man who does talk to her only does so because her skirt's stained and he points it out to her, oh, and he's gay. However, whilst that conversation is happening, Marshall overhears and comes driving over to put his claim on his woman and gets ready to brawl until they inform him that the man is gay, to which he bursts into tears, crying over the guy's shoulder, saying that, thank God, he's never been in a fight before. And this right here is when I fell in love with Marshall Erickson, people. This is when he became my fave. Anyway, Marshall still gets decked though, because the Good Samaritan's boyfriend sees him hugging his boyfriend and was all like, excuse you? Yes, so that's basically the episode. Like I said, I really enjoyed it, and I especially enjoyed it because of the insight it gave us into Lily and Marshall and their relationship. Because I would say that the first two episodes of the show were quite good at depicting how seemingly perfect they are for each other and how much they love each other. But it's in episode 3 that we start to see some cracks, and at the same time are able to see the necessity for said cracks. And How I Met Your Mother does this through both Lily and Robin and Ted and Barney. The fact that the episode starts with Barney informing Ted that his goal that night was to help Ted burst out of his rut, whilst Ted responds that he doesn't want that because McLaren's is routine for them and he likes routine. The symbolism that has Ted and Barney in the episode, therefore, not spending the time in McLaren's, they literally fly to another state in order for Barney to have Ted have this experience that is different from what is become familiar and comfortable with, is really good. And then you have Lily head to McLaren's with Robin, narratively choosing the safety and comfort of what is familiar, but then realizing that she's not getting that rush, the new experience. And for me, it was a bit of fascinating storytelling right there, because Lily wanted to experience something different from what she's always done. And like she tells Robin, because she's been with Marshall since they were basically teenagers, is the only man she's ever been with, the only man she's ever loved, is the routine she's always chosen, the comfort that she has grown overly familiar with. She wants something new and different and chooses to go to their old aunt, effectively sticking herself into the rut that Barney had accused Ted of being in at the start of the episode. And in the bar, I can see the writing start to lay the seeds of her wanting something more. She craves the excitement of being wanted by someone new, the exhilaration that comes with having a new, different experience. Now, I don't know if this is a seed that the writers will try and cultivate to grow in the latter seasons, but it would be very interesting if they do, because from this episode, it is clear that Lily wants something else. And I know someone is about to say that, well, Marsha has spent just as long in his relationship with her, so why isn't he wanting something different, Noria? But that's the thing. If we're looking at the episode, he wanted out of study time. He was excited to drive straight to Philadelphia to go meet Ted and Barney. They kept turning him around, and then the conversation switched to his help being needed again. And every time it happened, he was just as excited to turn the car around again and come meet them at Philadelphia. He is literally on the road, on the way to meet up with his friends, and who knows, maybe he too would have licked the Liberty Bell and had that tale to tell his kids. Or he might have warned his friends that that was most likely a crime that would have thrown them in jail. But he doesn't do that, however, because he calls, overhears a man talking to Lily and believing that she's been hit on, turns the car back around and goes to McLaren's. And for me, it showed the difference in Marshall and Lily in their relationship. He has the opportunity to have experiences outside of her, to see something new, and actively chooses to come back to the comfort of her, of being with her. Because McLaren, for me, in that episode wasn't just a bar, it represented safety and comfort, and to paraphrase Barney, the rut of familiarity. But Marshall chooses it anyway because that is where Lily is. Lily, on the other hand, never even got the chance to leave McLaren's. That's where she falls to as a default, and when she gets there, realizes that she wants something exciting to happen to her. But it can't because she's in her familiar zone. Like, sure, her removing the ring was a big deal in the episode because it was a very overt way to show that Lily actively wants to be hit on, wants to feel the rush of other men finding her attractive, because for that brief moment she was hit with the realization that Marshall is all she's ever had, all she's ever known, and all she'll ever know. But whereas we see Marshall actively make that the familiarity of their relationship his choice, we don't actually see Lily do the same. And so I wonder if maybe that would come up in the future. Maybe Lily might decide that for some reason she wants to get out of the rut and try something new. It will be interesting to see how that plays out, because right now with Marshall and Lily, the episode just highlights the problems and issues of those who have been in a relationship for a very long time, those who are first loves and have only known and loved each other for that long. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that some first loves haven't been together for half a century or even more. There are relationships that have lasted that long and are still that strong. No, what I'm saying is that most long-term relationships like that tend to fall into the problem of familiarity and routine, leaving either one or both parties thinking about what could have been, the experiences they could have had, the other loves that could have been theirs, how drastically different their loves could have been, and what different stories they might have had. And it is human to have those thoughts and questions, or at least I think so. Maybe one half of the couple needs a Barney to convince them to lick the Liberty Bell, and the other half needs a Barney to be caught by airport security and be possibly detained so that they can have the experience of coming to the rescue. Or maybe I'm just reading meaning into things and I'm just talking out of my ass. I would, as always, love to hear your thoughts. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share this if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. And until Monday's video, do you remember? Obsessing over the things you love? Perfectly valid coping mechanism.